Hey everyone, live. You're live too. We're always live. I feel like this joke's getting old, but it always just pops into my head. I'm also freezing. It was, we live just north of Boston. It was 94 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, and that's odd. Oh, Facebook finally picked up the thing. I was waiting for Facebook to pick it up. The video, the stream's actually happening. Um, But yeah, yesterday was 94 Fahrenheit, which was that work out to Celsius? It's going to be like in the low 30s, I think. Convert 94F. So 34 degrees Celsius yesterday. And today it's like 68, I think, which is like 20 degrees Celsius. So like still had the air conditioners on and was freezing. Hello, Frank, on YouTube. And got a couple of people on YouTube, a couple of people on Facebook, just getting everything fired up. I'm going to make my everyone post quickly, and then we'll kick it off. Today, I'm going to talk about how to build super fans for your book empire. I guess how to be a super fan if you're a reader, maybe. All right, just give me 2 shakes of a lamb's leg. I'm a little bit discombobulated today, but I'm recombobulating bit by bit. All right, there's my post and everyone. Facebook is just like every time I try and type in the box, it scrolls instead. Okay, this is getting frustrating, Facebook. Oh, I know why. I hit the wrong key and changed the layer on my keyboard. There we go. Hey, Carolyn and Kate, how are you doing? It's been a while, Carolyn, since we've crossed paths. All right. It's like my mic arm, the way I have it set up right now, is exactly in front of where the chat sits, but I can see it now. I am having a great day, despite the fact, like I was saying in my intro, it's like it's cold today. I mean, and by cold I mean 67/20 Celsius. But like yesterday, I went to a doctor's appointment, and it was like an hour and a half drive, and it was so hot that my air conditioner was starting to struggle in the car because like the sun was just beaming through the windows, and it was like an inferno in there. So yeah, I'm okay with cold weather, but I also like I don't want fall to come. I want summer just to keep going on forever. So the cold weather, even though I'm like, no more 90s, please, the cold weather always makes me a bit sad. Hey, Jill, how are you doing? You found us. But it is the circle of life. It is funny though, because I feel like winter makes us appreciate summer all the more. Come August, we like barely use our pool anymore, stuff like that. But June and July, we're in the pool a lot. It's like it's what it's all about. And then August, we're like, eh. It's so nice to look at though, and it sounds pretty because we always have the water slide going, so that makes it fun too. So yeah, um, so I'm trying to see if I want to wait a bit for a few more people to get here. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit of Facebook stuff. If anybody has any questions about Facebook ads or anything like that, feel free to drop them in here. Um, August is always a tough month for Facebook ads, and I've found with a lot of our clients that the middle of August had a dip. For some people, it was middle of August. Some people, it was late August, which is kind of a bummer because for most people, like the last 2 weeks of July and the first week of August were actually really good. Um, so it was kind of a bummer to see that dip happen, and that sort of thing happens just naturally. A lot of times people are like, "What did I do wrong? What's going wrong with my ads?" And it's like nothing. They're literally working as well as they can right now, just given the way that people behave. Usually the August dip is later in August than it happened this year. Usually it's like the last 2 weeks of August. Um, but have actually picked up for a lot of people over the last 5 days. I've seen a lot of accounts that we work on that ads that were kind of struggling through mid-August have just pulled themselves up at the end of August, which is really nice. And it's also useful to show that to people too, like, hey, there are things outside of your control that happen when it comes to marketing your books, and you can't judge yourself based on that. Um, you have to, you really have to understand that there's seasonality that's outside of our control. And sometimes people think, well, should I even be running ads at all during those times? And the answer is probably, because if you didn't, your sales would go down even more. So you don't want to completely turn things off because of that. But at the same time, you have to like pick when you're going to scale, and sort of be aware of the seasonality when it comes to deciding when to scale ads and when not to scale ads. Um, Historically, we see a dip again over Labor Day weekend, and usually for the first 2 to 3 days following Labor Day weekend. And that's because for a lot of places in the U.S., that's the first couple of days of public school. Although where we are, the public schools are all started up yesterday, or at least some of them started up yesterday that I know of. So it can really vary a bunch. So, but basically, it's times when there's upheaval and disruption in people's lives that we see ads kind of fail. Hey, Pippa, how are you doing today? Um, so do keep that in mind, that those sorts of fluctuations exist naturally, and it's not something to blame yourself for. I see sort of a thing with a lot of authors where they view declines in ad conversion as like a reflection on their writing and their abilities as a marketer. And I think the important thing you have to remember is all ads die. The best ads will eventually become ineffective. Geico is not running the caveman ads anymore because eventually the caveman ads became ineffective. Probably when they milked it too much and tried to make a sitcom based around them. And that's not unusual. That's the norm. Um, Now, if they did like caveman ads every year for a couple of months, they could probably have cycled those things on and on for over a decade. And that's something you can think about too. If you have an ad that's working really well and it starts to decline in effectiveness, shut it off, fire it up again in 3 to 4 months. Like make a list of like your best performing ads and cycle through them again in the future. Kind of pull them back out of the Disney vault kind of thing, and get them going again. That's always a great way to go. But really, the most important thing around this is mindset. If you view yourself, if seeing at your ads decline makes you feel like you're failing as an author or a marketer, that's going to make you less likely to spin up a new set of ads, because you're like, well, I suck at this anyway. Why am I going to do this? But no, you don't suck. You're just normal like the rest of us. You just there are outside factors, and all ads eventually stop working, and it's okay for that to happen. Um, the other thing that you need to think about too is that, like I said, there's what seasonality, all ads decline, right? Yes. So because all ads decline, you can't have all your eggs in one basket. You have to always be working on that next good ad that is working well, and you can scale up, and you build yourself a stable of ads, so that when any one ad dies, you're not left in the lurch with like no good ads running at all. You should have several good ads running, so that you're when good ads die, you're not left in the lurch. And also because, like I described earlier, a lot of clients, their ads just dipped in effectiveness through the middle of August, and then came back on their own. Now, for some people, some other ads dipped in effectiveness and other ones didn't. Might affect based on the demographics they're hitting, just sort of the appeal of a given ad or something like that. And lost my train of thought here for a second again. Um, Appeal, demographic, whatever. Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that might cause one ad to dip and not other ads, and then they come back on their own. So in that way, if you have a bunch of different ads, they might be fluctuating up and down at different times, and that can kind of build you a stable baseline. One thing you don't want to do though is sort of plan for like the best case scenario at all times. Like you might be like, look at that, I got my ads converting at this rate and I'm making this much money. Now I'm going to make that much money all the time forever. It's like, no, you won't. You're going to make your average is going to be less than your best, obviously. So a lot of people, I think, have a mindset issue as well, where they think like, well, this one time I did super, super good when all the stars aligned. And now I'm going to judge any sort of effort that doesn't hit that level as failure. And that actually goes beyond just running paid Facebook ads. That goes to book releases, to just an individual book or a series. Not everything we do knocks it out of the park, and that's normal. But if you sort of like always judge yourself against your very tippity top best performance ever, then a lot of the time you're going to feel like a failure. and that will eventually drag you down because you're just not going to be able to like produce well and be in a good mindset for writing better books, for writing good ads, for doing good marketing, for being out there, interacting with your fans in a positive way if you're basically just down on yourself all the time and and judging yourself. Hey Judith, it's been a while. Nice to see you. It's been a stretch. Um, so do keep that in mind that you need to judge yourself based on your average consistent performance, not your very best day, because there are so many factors, health, family, politics, natural events in the world like fires where you might live or who knows what, that can really affect your ability to be at the top of your game. And so much of it is out of our control. In fact, the majority of how well we can operate at any given time is outside of our control. So do keep in mind that your very best was probably like a fabulous confluence of events that you might have trouble repeating frequently. All right, Pippa says, I'm running a new ad in the UK with 3 images I made on Midjourney, throwing the characters from my ensemble cast and the mysteries. I had a terrible August, and I had a terrible August. Is the UK okay in the UK? But since I put up this new ad, it's exponentially better. On the other hand, my USA ads are now plummeting. I suppose for Labor Day. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's bang on. That ads, having this stable of ads and actually building up your UK ads, unless your books just really, for some reason, will not appeal to UK readers at all. Building up your UK audience is good. They are only about a quarter of the population of the US, but they can, really offset any lower times in the US. And some of that just is based on holidays, right? The UK had their Labor Day, they call it a bank holiday. They call it August, or something. I guess they call it the August bank holiday. Um, that was 2 days ago. Um, Whereas the US is going to have our bank holiday or Labor Day holiday on this Monday. So just even those holidays being offset can really help a lot. Now, not all holidays are offset, so you don't get that bonus all the time, but it definitely can help. Um, and then another angle too is trying to hit younger and older readers because tend to have things happen at different times. Older readers are a little bit more stable because they don't have as much going on. They're not as affected by going to school ending, getting a summer job, whatever that might be, as younger readers are. But at the same time, once older people become grandparents, now they're affected by those younger people's schedules again. But finding those younger readers can actually be really effective. I was just working with an author this morning, and we noticed that for her rom-coms, she does really well with a younger audience. Her ads appeal quite a bit to younger audiences. However, people over 65 actually convert at a higher rate, which was pretty interesting. So now we're like, okay, we've got this younger audience that actually is a great stable for us. It's where most of the ads show, like the impressions are almost entirely at the younger end of the audience. So they're all showing there. Um, and my brain got ahead of my mouth again. And so because of that, we the ads continually do well with the young audience. But when we saw like, oh wow, we sold a decent number of books to folks over 65. We're like, okay, now what can we do? Why are the ads not showing to people over 65 that much? Is it because they're using the kind of like the cartoony rom-com images a lot? Or is it something else? And so what we decided to try is we're going to do some non like cartoony images, and we're going to target those ads at like 45 plus or 55 plus, and then see if those ones do better as well. And we can get that older audience in there. Hey Elizabeth, how are you? And Monique, we're getting the whole band together today. I love it. So that's some tactics that you can do. Hi Frank, I see you on YouTube. I'm not sure if you're here for the author content, the author advertising content. That's kind of why I'm not addressing your comments, because I don't think they're about that. But if they are, then cool. What do you write? Hey Gina. So yeah, when it comes to building super fans are another way to sort of offset the ups and downs that you might experience. I said hi to you twice already, Frank, before that. Sorry. Super fans are another way of offsetting that experience that you might have as as an author. And I'm just start closing some of the comments. Like having trouble keeping track of things, it's pulling me off my game. And I think that they're one of the things that I inadvertently did. Like I knew I was trying to do it, but I didn't really have a strategy back when I started. I was just sort of like, these are things I'm supposed to do as an author, and luckily some of them helped me build super fans. But super fans are are a different breed in many regards than the regular fans that you get. Now you can get super fans from anywhere. Like my one of my I think my number one fan found me from a Facebook ad I ran in 2017. I think it was in 2017. I know the ad. He's mentioned the ad before. I think it was in 2017. Um, but what turned him into a super fan? Well, part of it was that the story resonated with him really well. But I think another part of it too was that he got to have personal interaction with me and we chatted and stuff like that. And he also likes to support authors and creators that he likes. And those people are out there, right? We all know that those people are out there. Um, and I think that sometimes we don't do certain types of engagement because we're not sure if we're going to get the payoff. Like the amount of time that I've spent engaging with my super fans is is probably like it's like an 80-20 thing, right? Like 80% of my readers come from 20% of my efforts, and 20% of my readers, aka my super fans, come from 80% of my efforts. And so the common logic, and I've even talked about this before, about identifying the 80% that's only giving you 20% and stop doing that or deprioritize that. Hi, Emma. Um, but do keep in mind that inside that 80% might be some activities that are actually building your super fans. One of the things I think we've probably all done at one time or another and had, you know, not amazing success from is Facebook takeovers or release parties. You have to plan some events and make it and prepare a bunch of posts and be on to interact the entire time. I've actually, when I first started doing ads, I found Facebook takeovers and Facebook parties to be the most stressful thing I ever did as an author. And you might think like, Mallory, you're a social butterfly. How could that be stressful? But I felt like out of my element. I didn't know what the expectations were. I was afraid I wouldn't get any engagement and have anybody talking to me. I was afraid that maybe it might be the same people as last time or something like that came and engaged, and I would feel like a failure. Um, and I judged myself based on all those different kinds of things. And what I found after doing a couple of them was like, yes, not that many people showed up. I had to do a lot of effort coming up with sort of unique and interesting things. Some of the things I tried to post for Facebook parties for engagement and fun did bomb. Some of them worked really well. And yeah, a lot of times it was the same people who came time and time again. And some of those people were just there for the freebies or were bored or whatever and weren't buying a lot of my books or reading. But some of them were people who read my books, who then joined my Facebook fan group. And only now, or maybe not now exactly, but even like a few years ago, but only like a couple of years later, did I realize these were the people that bought the mug, bought the T-shirt, bought the all the paperback special paperback editions, backed the Kickstarter at the highest level, um, all that sort of thing. It was those people who I thought were like, oh, I'm failing because person XYZ is the one that keeps coming to this event and no one else does. Like I'm sucking. But that one person was a super fan who like not like monetarily exactly, like yes, there are monetary rewards for having a super fan, and those oftentimes can actually offset a dozen or 2 dozen other readers, but they do word of mouth as well, and word of mouth is huge. And I think that's something that you can't discount, that if you get those people that show up to all of your stuff, and are always there and want to talk with you and are friendly and engaging, and also, like, when you have a special edition, like a cool cup with a funny saying, they're like right there and buying it. They back you on Patreon, all that sort of thing. um, those sorts of people are the ones that made that 80% effort worth it. So don't discount that. Don't get yourself in that trap of thinking that I didn't do a good job because I did a Facebook party and it didn't go off like gangbusters, or I did a Kickstarter and half the people that backed my Kickstarter were these core readers who I always have all the time anyway. And like, that is not a failure. That's amazing. Good job. you've got these super fans that are like your fans for life. They'll read anything you write. They love to help you out. They want to support you and see you grow. They want to feel like they're a part of what you're building. And I think that is crucial. And that's sort of the next step. Elizabeth says, I get my best Amazon reviews from a handful of super fans. Yeah, that is a huge part of it too. You're right. I didn't even my current train of thought hadn't even taken me there. But yeah, I would agree. A lot of my best reviews have been from those super fans too. They're the ones that show up, and they're not my reader. They're not my beta readers. The majority of them, or if they are, the super fans that are in your beta reader group are the beta readers that always review, right? Like you've all you've got those couple of beta readers that always review. Those are probably your super fans for sure. Um, but yeah, and they show up on every book and they talk about the good things and what they love, and their reviews very rarely have a but in them, like it was great, but kind of thing. So yeah, they're indispensable in so many ways. You launch a box set, and you're like, hey, you send a letter to your email to your newsletter and put it in your Facebook group, and you say, hey, I'm launching this box set. I want to try running ads to it to see if I can pull in more readers into the series that we all love. Or you even use the word like join, have more readers join this series we all love, because join's a really good word. Um, and can anybody throw some reviews on this box set? If you enjoyed the book and think it deserves a 5 or a 4-star, can you do the box set? And your super fans will be the ones that jump in and give you those reviews in the box set. And that is, again, indispensable. Now, maybe not all of them. There are people who have an aversion to reviews for a host of reasons. So some of them won't, but they're going to be the ones that jump in and help you out. Yeah, exactly. You're right, Emma. Yeah, and I've seen it too. I've been in forums and reader forums and whatnot, and someone's like, "What's a great sci-fi book to read?" And boom, some of my super fans are in there recommending my books, and it's just like, oh, yes, because me recommending my books will have the opposite effect, right? Like you see, every time you see an author in like a reader group saying like, "Read my book," kind of thing, just right then and there, you're like, okay, well, no one's reading that now. They're gonna get flamed in the comments. I mean, they might not, but they might. But when a reader does it, it's just like boom, like it just works. Unless it's a bad rec, like the rec doesn't fit the ask. Huh. I mean, I'm curious, has anybody else done other things that they've found to be incredibly successful in finding super fans, or things that you've tried that did okay, but you've got to think of a way to optimize them or do them better or something like that? Um, I think from like a monetization standpoint, Kickstarter and Patreon are some of the best, or just even special editions that you just sell on your store all the time are also good options as well. Uh, yeah, I think you're right about that too, Emma. I think they can sell the book better than we can. It doesn't hurt to listen to them too, right? If you've got super fans dropping recs um, for your book, like you can um, totally see what they're saying. I mean, obviously you can see what they're saying, but see what they're saying and see like, huh, is that like a way I've never pitched it before? Or gee, I didn't realize that particular trope or story element was important to the readers. I just kind of threw it in there because it fit at the time. So that sort of thing is also like indispensable too. I completely agree. All right, so no one else has any Superman things or thing. Is there anything you guys have thought about trying for building your readership, for trying to build super fans and aren't sure if it would work or not? I certainly have not thought of everything. I'm sure there's other things out there. There are so many ways to market and advertise. I still remember like back in the day, and I guess by back in the day, I mean like maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, I taught a couple of classes here and there on using Pinterest ads to, as a way to build readership and to increase your reach as an author. And my main thing for Pinterest ads that I pushed in the class was that you use them to build up audiences. Like you'll actually run Pinterest ads and you'll send those people to your website, and then you'll use the Facebook pixel on your website to build an audience. And then you can basically, the Pinterest ad is going to, would have like targeted by genre and trope. It's going to have like a really tropey image. People will like that. They'll click on it. They land on your author page, on your author website, and then capture them with a Facebook pixel. And those people then will have self-identified, right? You targeted them on Pinterest. They saw an image they like. They clicked on it. You sort of know, okay, this person, they're my target audience because Pinterest targeted them and then they took an action. So they're there. and then that was a way of like, if you're running out of people to target, you couldn't find new audiences, you could use Pinterest for that. And I remember I was at 20 Books 2 years ago at the signing. Um, and so a woman walked up to me and she said, I really got to thank you for that Pinterest class. It completely changed my career. And she was using it just straight up for running ads. And I'd learned in the meantime that Pinterest does work really well as a direct way to run ads in certain genres. Not so much in my genre, but in certain genres it really does. It actually works really well for direct sales too. I know people who have like entire businesses like doing things like tarot cards and stuff like that, and they run their entire business off Pinterest ads. But anyway, she's like, yeah, it changed everything, and I make all my money now with Pinterest ads. It's changed my life. And I was just like, damn, like I never thought of like really using that wholesale like she had. I mean, I guess I thought of it, but I didn't think it would work, quite honestly. And it did. She killed it with Pinterest ads. So there's always like there's so many things out there we can always try and play around with. Pippa says, I got them from the book tour I use. If they don't get on a tour, I send them paperback anyway. It pays for itself many times over. Oh, that's super cool. When you say book tour, do you mean like an actual in-person book tour or like a blog tour kind of thing? Like you mean an actual in-person book tour, right? Um, but yeah, that sort of thing is awesome too. I've got a few super fans that I've made from doing signings, physical in-person signings, where every year they would come back and they would buy the next 6 or 7 books from me and continue reading the series. And then they would literally wait. They wouldn't buy online because they want signed copies. They would wait until they saw me at a signing again, and then they would buy the next batch of books that were out. And it was kind of cool. And they were also super fans. They were like very active in my groups. And they were obviously telling people about my books a lot and stuff like that. So huge, huge stuff. And it says, I think it's about creating a brand that people recognize and want to own. Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue created the Royals of Forsyth, and it's going to be a set of 5 trilogies in the end, but they have a store full of merch relating to each royal, and it's so good. Oh my, yeah, they're the masters of it, right? Like if you want to look at that, if you're in that genre, you got to be studying what Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue are doing. Their Kickstarter was unbelievable, right? They hit 6 figures on that thing. I remember the pictures that when the books showed up that they had to ship out, there were pallets of books showed up in their driveway, and they're like, what do we do with all of these? Like, right? Like that's like it's a crazy logistical thing that they had to deal with, but they're killing it. They're figuring it out, and yeah, they're so good at understanding their audience and everything. Judith says, I'm still working on finding my audience. It's toughening over the money to invest. It all went to covers and editing. It is hard, and that's where you got to leverage that 80%, right? Like, what are inexpensive things you can do that get you having personal contact with readers, one-on-one personal kind of contact, or 1-on-5 or something like that. Um, that's the sort of thing that will really impact finding your efforts to find super fans. If you can get those sort of like small group scenarios, when they feel like they get to speak to you and what they're saying is heard and valued, and it's higher effort, lower return, which is unfortunate, because like Facebook ads are easy, right? Because they're low effort, high return. You just have to spend money, but if you don't have money, then you got to beat the streets. You got to do grassroots, but that can have some of the best dividends. Oh, people says it's online, but I send physical books to participants. Oh, that's so cool. There's a scrum for places now as the series is so popular. Maybe my fans sometimes miss out, and I send extra books to them. So I need to know more about this. Do they pay to be a part of the book tour? Like, are you just sending people free books? I need to understand a little bit more about how you do these online book tours, Pippa, because that sounds really cool. That's cool that you send them extra books, though. I've done that too. I've taken my super fans sometimes if I get a couple of books that I just have left over from a show, and I'm just like, well, I've only got like one of these. I'm just gonna, what I want to do is I'll just pick a super fan and I'll send it off to them. Thousands of books. It was so many books. Oh, you're talking arcs. Oh, I understand, Pippa. I gotcha. So you send physical ARC copies. I know a few authors who do that. That is actually really cool. I might try that on my next release, actually. I bet you have a few fans who would really appreciate a physical ARC copy. They would hold on to that forever. All right. Anyone else have any thoughts? So I I got on this topic actually because Jill's the person I always say, like, what should I talk about today? And 9 times out of 10, Jill has it. Or just talking with Jill is the brainstorm I need to figure out what to talk about. And actually, we're doing a Superfans class on September 15th. So if you're interested in more stuff about how to build Superfans, that whole thing is like, I'm actually doing some analysis of how Star Wars and Star Trek build Superfans, have built their fandoms, and then what as authors we can learn from that and leverage for ourselves. And obviously some of that is not attainable, but there's core premises and takeaways, I think, for everybody, regardless of your financial ability to be George Lucas or not, which for all of us is no, right? None of us have the financial ability to be George Lucas. Although keep in mind, like, he bootstrapped it pretty hard. I mean, not completely, but there was a lot of bootstrapping involved. At least for Star Wars, he used his own money. So it is possible to really build high. Oh, that's cool, Pippa. All right, that's awesome. And that's great. Like, and you're right, doing that has built you this group of super fans who are just like with you now, and now they're doing other things. They're probably like really consistent arc reviewers. They're beta reading for you. I love that. PR boxes are growing in popularity. Yeah, especially if you're hitting up TikTokers, right? Like, you need to give them things to hold up and show, um, that like speak to your brand and whatnot. That's what's going to get them to talk about you more and to talk about you longer. It's also going to make them more incentivized to talk about you. It's sort of anything that builds like this connection, where it's not just where, there's so much of what we do online is impersonal. So anything you can do to build a personal connection, heck, like a handwritten note, when you send out a PR box, would speak volumes. I get handwritten letters from people sometimes, and I keep them for a really long time. They sit on my desk for like weeks, because they're just really special to get something like that, to have to see that someone actually had that, like, took the time to do that, and wanted to have that personal connection. That, of course, I always reach back out to them too. Um, Probably physical rewards is the main audience is going to be the United States and the UK. Yeah, the postal rates have gone ballistic. You're absolutely right about that. And you can drop ship some things, but it is hard to. I mean, I guess you can drop ship books, so they ship out of the U.S. and then you could postage mail um, stuff from the UK, or you could like get a bunch of letters ready, all addressed and everything, and then send them to a friend in bulk and have them mail them. But you're right, it's logistically harder, no matter how you slice it. You're totally right. Especially for people in Australia, they're definitely on the short end of things. Um, but there is that one company. I actually had the owner on at one point. It's the Inkfluence, and one of the coolest things she mentioned to me. They do so many cool things, like velvet book covers and sprayed edges and foil inlays and all sorts of wild things. But I think one of the coolest things she mentioned was that if you want to do signed copies of your books, but you're in a place where you just can't ship them, you want to drop ship it all. Um, they'll have the printer print out the first page, which actually ends up being the first and last page. Well, actually, it's not the first and last page, depending on how the book is bound, but it's more than just one page. They'll print out that first fold page, and they'll mail you all the first pages. You sign them all, mail them back. Then they print the rest of the book, and they bind those first pages into the book. And that is like super cool. It like opens up an opportunity for a lot of people who wouldn't have had the opportunity to offer signed books. And I think that is super cool. Usually send out in the U.S., which is only twice a year, and that works too, right? Like if you're in a situation where you're back in the U.S. periodically. I know one author I work with. She travels all the time. She's been the first year we worked together. She was all over Europe, and this year she's all over Asia. Um, and we've been talking a bit about how she could possibly do it, because she's like killing it, right? And I'm like, you need to do a Kickstarter. You need to do a physical, like a store. We need to ramp things up. But she's got the store, and we're working on ramping that up. But we need to ramp things up more with physical stuff, and so we're working on the logistics of how to do all of that. So totally stuff that's worth looking into. I am losing my voice again. This happened last week too. It like really started to go after talking for this long. It's really getting dried out. I need to take have a lozenge before I start lunch with Mal or anything like that. So, but I do think, Judith, is that there are a lot of things holding you back right now. Um, Reasons why you can't do things, but you need to, focus on what you can do. So say like, okay, those are things I can't do. Set them aside. What else is there? What other things can I do? What's in my power right now? What's within my personal ability based on the time I have, health issues, um, general scheduling, whatever else it might be, family matters, weather, who knows what, right? Like there's a lot of things can affect our productivity. But figure out what you can do, and then like pick something and buckle down, go at it. And like I said, like we oftentimes measure ourselves on the very best that's possible, and we consider everything else to be failure. And we need to not do that. We need to we need to measure ourselves on what is consistently achievable. What's my average, and I'm just going to try to do a bit better than my average. And if you sort of keep that goal of always trying to beat your average and not have like the best day ever, but just consistently beat your average, well, that's actually going to level you up over time, because every day that you do better than average, it raises the average a little bit. And that I think is a lot more achievable than always trying to go for broke for going for the big release and whatnot. And it's less mentally taxing too, because we don't constantly feel like, oh, I'm missing this super high level so frequently. It's more like, hey, I'm like missing. Um, I missed my average by a little bit. I'm going to try and do better next time. I'm going to spend some time and think about what went right, what went wrong, and what I can do better the next time. I used to work in software, as I'm sure you all know. I've talked about it a few times, and we did what's called Scrum, which is a way. It's a software term for organizing work into small chunks. Um, those chunks are called sprints, and Scrum's a particular methodology of doing that. Kanban became pretty popular because software development took it on. Kanban, though, originally, which a lot of authors use now, they use Kanban boards and stuff like that. They're kind of ubiquitous. It actually came out of Toyota's manufacturing process for just-in-time manufacturing, and then it filtered over into software development out of manufacturing, and then kind of is spread around all over the place. But anyway, all of that being said, part of the process of doing Scrum or an organized group Kanban or something like that is that periodically, and usually it's like every week to 2 weeks, somewhere in that range, you sit down and you look at the last period of time and you say, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we improve next time. And just that little process can be really useful in helping you identify areas of improvement, but also things to feel good about, like successes. I'm a really big believer that everybody needs to get wins under their belt. You need to look at stuff and say, like, I did a good job. um, I set out to get this book done, and it's done. Or I set out to write 1,000 words, and I wrote 1,000 words. Those little wins all build up, and it's actually the main reason why I love gardening so much. I know, total segue, but it's not. So much of what we do in life, we're so goal focused. We're like, it's like we're trying to achieve this goal, we're trying to do this thing, and we ignore the journey. We forget about the journey, and the journey just becomes almost a nuisance. And I feel like a lot of writers get that way too, right? Like we like having written, we don't like writing. At least after a while. At the beginning, you like writing, but eventually you like having written, because you get so focused on the goal, which is to finish the book, sell it, market it, make some money, that we forget about the journey. And life is 100% journey. Um, and it's good to remember that, and to remember that the journey is and should be the most enjoyable part. Stop and smell the roses is really like this whole thing, right? That's why that saying exists. And that's why I like gardening, because with gardening, the journey, especially if you're gardening non-food, you're just gardening for like pretty flowers and stuff like that. The journey is the whole thing, right? You plant, you get the seeds, you're excited, you got like a new pot that you're going to put them in. The pot's like really pretty, and it's going to look great in your step or whatever it might be. My thing that it's kind of like on hold a little bit right now, but it's going to kick off again soon, is turning a rosemary bush into a bonsai tree, which is, rosemary is a thing you can bonsai. So I'm stoked about that. Which is entirely journey, right? Like you don't bonsai a rosemary bush to have more rosemary to use in your cooking. It's totally just for the journey of it. But You start with seeds and where you're going to plant them, and then you put the seed in the ground and it sprouts, most of them. Um, and it's exciting thinking that like this inert thing plus dirt and water and heat turned into a plant, and everything that plant needs to get started to make at least those first two leaves, um, is all in the seed. And then you start giving it more nutrients and more water, and it grows, and you transplant it, and then it branches off and it grows, like it grows bigger leaves, and then it starts to flower. And that whole journey is really exciting. And then you can even do fun things, like a lot of plants that are annuals, you can actually overwinter them inside, and they can live years and years and years, when maybe we thought they were plants that would die. And that's exciting too, like peppers. I love overwintering peppers because it's just kind of awesome to take these plants that we plant every year and actually instead have them last years. Or my kale plants that are like 3 or 4 years old now, and they just stay outside all winter and they just keep growing. They're actually getting woody at the bottom. They're actually turning into kale bushes, which is super cool. But anyway, it's all about that journey, and I think that we need to remember that the journey is and should be the most enjoyable part. And I think it's why we all started being writers in the first place. So it's easy to lose sight of that. And I do feel like super fans, um, reconnect us with that joy. That was a really good tie-in, wasn't it? I did well there. I actually had that plan from the beginning too, so I did it. But yeah, super fans give you that tie-in. They remind you of why you started writing, of how much you love the story, and how exciting it is to see other people who love the story just as much. So that's another great reason for cultivating them, and that then helps bring the joy back. Because I think once you've been at this for a while, you know that like managing turning your favorite thing into a business is an ongoing task. What that ends up meaning for people, um, and I think it's something that can't be understated, how important it is to to not lose sight of why we started. And I think the more we stay connected with why we started writing, the better we'll be able to connect with our fans and build those super fans. So there's my spiel. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Pretty much everybody stuck around, so I'm going to count that as a win. Um, I have I have, by the way, I figured, like, especially since most of my audience is women, um, you guys will appreciate that. I'm going for my very first mammogram this afternoon, so that's been like on my mind. I'm told they don't hurt as much as they used to, so half the horror stories I've heard won't apply. But I'm also still like nervous about this. Um, but in a few hours it'll be over, so that'll be good. So I'm gonna go mentally prepare myself for that. But it was awesome seeing everybody here. If you want, like I mentioned, we're doing that class on how to build super fans like Star Wars and Star Trek do. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not Star Wars and Star Trek. It's Star Wars and Marvel. I was having a conversation about Star Wars versus Star Trek with someone earlier. I think that's why it's on my head. But it's how to build super fans like Star Wars and Marvel do. And there's pitfalls too, like what are the ups and downs of all of that. That's a class we're teaching on September 15th, which is actually Jill and my 27th wedding anniversary too. So it'll be a good day for that. It'll be auspicious. Um, Thanks, Pippa. I'm going to need it. I'm sure I'll be fine, right? What's the worst that could happen? You don't fall off or anything. Um, but yeah, so reach out to me or Jill, or comment here if you'd like a link to that, and we can hook you up. I think it's a fairly inexpensive class. Like, but I don't know. I should know. I don't usually worry about that part. That's Jill handles all that. I just do what she tells me. It's a great arrangement. Um, and then also I mentioned about our membership that we're launching, where we're gonna have like all these video content, and um, weekly calls with people and whatnot. We filled up for our first month already. For October, actually we overfilled because some people hadn't responded, so we thought it was a no. So we moved on to inviting other people in, and then they said yes. So we're a little bit over full, but that's okay. Um, but if you're interested in getting in on the membership that we have, or want more information, also reach out. That we're our next available month for bringing new people in. We're only going to bring a few people in a month, just to make it easier for us to manage and to make it so that the community that we're going to build, and sort of the culture that we want to create. I don't want to have like a massive influx of people all the time. I want to keep the community and the feel really consistent for everybody. So we're only going to bring a few people in a month. So if you're interested in that, we'll be bringing more people in November. And there'll be also some self-paced ones that are actually quite inexpensive, and you're going to get access to like ultimately it's going to be hundreds of videos on pretty much every topic. I'm going to make like really bite-sized videos, like 15 minutes on this, 5 minutes on that. Just you're like, oh, I want to do this. Mel might have a video on how to do that, and sure enough, Mel does. It's a little walkthrough showing you how to do something that you might need to do. So that's something you can reach out about as well. Thanks, Danica. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're excited for me. All right, I will see you guys next week. Have yourselves and then there's a summit, author summit called the Book Ninja Summit that's happening on the 7th of September, and I'm going to be speaking on that as well. So if you're interested, you can just look up the Book Ninja Summit if you want to hear me speak on sort of like a beginner Facebook ad thing, but also a bit of like a bit of content on storytelling as well in Facebook ads. That'll be on that date too. All right, we'll see you guys later. Have yourselves a fabulous day and weekend. Ciao.